Today, my group will be presenting you our thoughts on legalizing marijuana. My group members are Alexis, Karen, Yuan, and myself, Cameron. Marijuana or weed is a plant-turned drug that has been a controversial topic since the start of modern society. It has also been $1 million underground business, mainly used as a medicine. As a group of young college individuals, we have all been around or exposed to marijuana in some type of way. On top of that, we go to a school in New Jersey where there is a lot of political arguments on why it should be legalized and why it should not be. Some of the main points we'll be talking about today is how marijuana will drastically lower the injustice towards black communities and stimulate the economy, but it also may open up the country even more to the adverse effects of the drug. Here's Alexis with her thoughts on how legalizing marijuana will help the negative impacts on black communities.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alexis Simmons, and one thing Cameron said was right. While all of us will have different opinions today, one thing we're all able to acknowledge is the prevalence of marijuana in today's society. Now, whether you realize it or not, everyone has different opinions on marijuana. Therefore, today, I want you all to think about how the legalization of marijuana will help the negative impacts on the Black community as well as Brown communities. The criminalization of marijuana has impacted marginalized communities for decades. Non-marginalized communities have been able to consume the same drug, yet the repercussions for Black and Brown communities have always been more intense. Individuals within the Black and Brown communities face unwarranted consequences of mass incarceration due to marijuana in comparison to their counterparts, who rarely ever receive jail time for the same exact crime. Many of the Black and Brown individuals who take up our prison systems are present due to low-level marijuana and/or drug offenses. Therefore, a sentence that should be so minuscule for something as small as marijuana could take up to almost the whole entire life of a Black or Brown individual. The criminalization of marijuana being different for non-marginalized communities illustrate the biases within our system. Therefore, the effects of marijuana in the Black and Brown communities illustrate how clearly targeted they are within the system. The source presented before all of you today illustrates how this has continued on for decades. I will allow you to look at it for a second. To look how this source illustrates the inequity in the criminal justice system by demonstrating something as small as misdemeanors that marijuana takes a part in, and it'll show how detrimental misdemeanors can be towards the Black and Brown community in comparison to the white community. Therefore, the legalization of marijuana would stop the harsh criminalization of the Black and Brown communities. Marijuana being illegal allows the criminal justice system to invoke prejudice when deciding a sentence, which often results in over-criminalizing marginalized communities. The legalization will also go towards reconstructing the anti-Black policies like the war on drugs era that was formed to deteriorate and oppress marginalized communities from progressing. The decriminalization of marijuana would stop the unnecessary arrests and prosecutions for low-level drug offenses that create a disparity within marginalized communities. Again, the legalization of marijuana would also stop mass incarceration. Statistics show that Black and Brown communities take up the most space within our prison systems. A lot of those individuals have been in jail for several years for low-level drug offenses, but received high sentences due to being Black or Brown. Therefore, if the law was passed to legalize marijuana, legalization will discontinue the inequity that occurs within our criminal justice system. The opportunity of the decriminalization of marijuana will allow healing for marginalized communities. It would also help remove the target that has been on their back since the war on drugs, therefore finally allowing Black and Brown communities to be able to progress in socialization. The legalization of marijuana would create fair and equal opportunities within marginalized communities. And then statistics show how Black men are more likely to receive a higher sentencing than white men for committing the same crime. Therefore, the need for this policy is to help cultivate a non-biased and inclusive system for marginalized communities. Now, I would like to pass it off to Karen to speak about his opinions on the legalization of marijuana.
Thank you. Legalizing marijuana would also stimulate the economy and open up a huge new market. Unemployment and poverty are always a problem in this country and always have been. Marijuana illegality has actually been a huge part of causing it, as Alexis touched on a little. Legalizing marijuana could open up so many more jobs and undo much of the damage that has been done. If you look at the PowerPoint slide, you can kind of see the cannabis jobs and how they've nearly quadrupled since 2016. According to Chris Keynes of Forbes magazine, the marijuana market has nearly 250 full-time employees, and this article is from over a year ago, which, according to his research, is more than 4 times the amount that the coal industry workers have in this country. And as of this article, only a handful of states have been legalized. And if all the states legalize, the job growth potential is unbelievable. As good as that sounds, there have been some reported downsides. According to research by the Centennial Institute of Colorado Christian University, for every dollar gained in tax revenue, Coloradans spent approximately $4.5 to mitigate the effects of legalization. The costs related to healthcare system and from high school dropouts are the largest cost contributors. However, this seems to be a little biased, and also since the industry is only so new. Most healthcare-related problems would come with marijuana being spiked with other drugs, which would happen less if the industry was legal and also regulated. Also, high school dropouts being connected solely with marijuana could be considered an unfair argument. On top of jobs being made, the national revenue that would come in is incredible. Chris Kane once more brings into light about how the prohibition of alcohol being repealed greatly helped end the Great Depression. While the U.S. is nowhere close to having a depression, having a tax revenue boom would be incredible. According to a study by New Frontier Data used in another Forbes article, national legalization in the United States could result in $128.8 billion in tax revenue and an estimated 1.6 million new jobs. Even if you look at this, graphic right here, you can see that by 2026 we'll have almost 800% growth in revenue through marijuana. On top of helping people on the macro level, marijuana legalization can also help people individually, especially when it comes to health, as Yuan will continue on.
Thank you. But some people may argue that the reason why we illegalize marijuana is due to its severe effect on people's health. Let's first take a look at some data. According to the CDC, there are estimated about 48.2 million people using it in 2019, and approximately 3 in 10 people who use marijuana have marijuana use disorder, or in other words, addicted to marijuana. So what does that mean? Marijuana users may find it very difficult to stop taking it, even when it is causing health and social problems that will affect their lives. Studies have shown that marijuana would affect people's health in all areas. First of all, marijuana has a negative effect on brain function. When marijuana is inhaled or ingested, THC, which is the main psychoactive compound in marijuana that produces a high sensation, will directly impact brain function. It will negatively affect people's ability in attention, memory, executive functioning, processing speed, reasoning, coordination, movement, and time perception. Those impacts are even more severe for heavy users, which are those people who take marijuana at least 3 times a week and people who are young. A research done by Nadia Salavi, who is a brain researcher, has found that after 12 to 24 hours of abstinence, heavy users perform worse than non-users and less frequent users on tasks that assess verbal learning and memory. This has shown that even in the short run, there are severe side effects on marijuana intake. But the effect of marijuana could be long-lasting and even change the structure of the brain that may cause permanent effects on people's brain functions, on memory, attention, and learning. For example, people who are long-term users have shown to reduce the level of hippocampus that is associated with memory. Also, those effects could be even more severe for children and teenagers as they are taken at such a young age, along with their brain development. Also, marijuana is associated with harmful effects on other organ systems. It may cause people's respiratory system, just like tobacco. No matter how it takes, As smoked marijuana, it is associated with many lung and respiratory disease. It will deliver harmful substances like the same toxins and carcinogens, which is a cancer-causing chemicals found also in tobacco smoke, into the lung. Once these toxins and chemicals are inhaled, they will harm lung tissues and will cause scarring and damages to small blood vessels. Therefore, it may cause obstructive and inflammatory symptoms and have increased the risk of lung cancer. Also, it shows an effect on heart health as well. Marijuana, due to its effect, may cause faster heart speed and higher blood pressure immediately after use. So it is associated with higher risk of vascular disease, heart disease, and risk of strokes. Also, marijuana as addictive drug, there are also heart health problems even after people try to stop taking it. This is probably one of the reasons why people who start taking it are a bit hard in quitting it. Even though the longer they use, the more negative health effects they may experience, it is still difficult for people suffering from those withdrawal symptoms without relapse. They may need to struggle through the symptoms like anxiety, restlessness, insomnia, depression, and changes in appetite, which could severely impact them psychologically and physically. Therefore, since marijuana may bring many negative effects on people's health during the process and even after abstinence, it is definitely necessary to ban the use of marijuana.
Thank you for that, Ewan. Now, even with our different stances today, there's something that we clearly all agree on. Marijuana is a topic that is important and needs to be talked about. So whether you agree with what you've heard about for legalization helping to stop the negative impacts of criminalization in marginalized communities, or how it will better the economy, or the point of view of negative effects it has on individuals' healths, all points are extremely relevant. Therefore, they're relevant because even though we all have different stances, we're all able to bring forth necessary data and explanations to support our beliefs. Whether any of our stances impact you, I pose you to think of the impacts communities will have with illegal marijuana or legal marijuana. Thank you.